Welcome to Kawartha Backyard Farms, all you gorgeous garden gnomes. This is going to be our first ever video tour of the backyard farm. I'm out here in the rain giving you guys a tour, so you better subscribe and like this video. So the backyard farm isn't just contained to the backyard anymore. It is expanding into the front yard, and here we have some mixed berries. We have black raspberries, blackberries, and some polar berries. So you know that your black raspberries or raspberries of any variety are ready when they just pop right off of the plant. I find the black raspberries to be the sweetest variety. Alright, come on into the backyard farm. Our first two beds here, we have our kind of herb garden. We have sage and Greek oregano, both of which are perennial, so they'll just keep coming back year after year. And we're actually going to be harvesting the sage and drying it up soon. And behind me here we have our hardy kiwi. This was a new addition last year. We weren't sure how it was going to work out, and we're still not entirely sure what to do with it, but we are getting some little berries on the plant, so hopefully we'll be able to have our own homegrown kiwis. In this bed we also have some chives, and then we've planted some mixed flowers in here as well. We are trialing potatoes in a couple different growing methods. So here we have some in our buckets, and then we have an in-ground section of potatoes, and we're also growing potatoes in containers and grow bags. So this is what we call our main field. We don't have any raised beds in here, and we just plant directly into the ground. We have asparagus, and in the bare section behind these buckets of potatoes, last year we did carrots here. We often do beans or peas in this area. So in a previous video we had planted this section of the field with our onions, and now we do have the peppers, and they're all jalapeno peppers in here. And just look at how loaded up this plant is. So the onions are doing really great. They're kind of starting to dry out at the ends, but they have lots of green growth on them, and they are starting to bulb up since we have passed our summer solstice. Now sadly the days will start to get shorter, but that triggers the onions to form those bulbs. So in this raised bed we have garlic. The variety is called Music, and we planted this last fall. And then just a few weeks ago we harvested the garlic scapes, since it is a hardneck variety, and maybe in a couple more weeks we will be harvesting the bulbs and getting them to dry. So our middle raised bed here is a mosaic of diversity. In front here we have some Russian red garlic that we started from bulbule, so that won't be producing a bulb of multiple different cloves this year. It'll just be one large clove, and we'll replant that in the fall, and then next year we'll get a nice harvest from that. This giant overgrowing plant here is actually flowering tobacco. So there's a few different varieties here, and we planted this to kind of help us with cucumber beetles. We had heard from a farmer who said that their go-to for dealing with cucumber beetles is planting flowering tobacco. So we're giving it a shot to see if this will help. Underneath, in the shade of the tobacco, we have our basil. So we have a spicy globe basil. Then we have a Thai basil. We have a lettuce leaf basil, Genovese basil, cinnamon basil, and then we have a lemon basil. Now some of them are starting to flower just because it's been so hot in our area. And we also have sunflowers that we planted to help kind of give those basils some shade to prevent them from bolting and producing those flowers. We've got one last herb underneath the shade of the sunflowers, and that is two types of parsley. So we have a flat leaf parsley and a curly leaf parsley. So this year is our tomato tunnel. Some years it's a cucumber tunnel, and other years it will be a bean tunnel. But right now we have a couple different cherry varieties of tomatoes. We have a Sun Gold, and we have a Sweet Million. Actually, I'm not even sure if that is a Sweet Million. I think I've lost the tag again, of course. And then this side, we have our like slicing tomatoes. So we have a Big Beef Hybrid. And then because the foliage is so dense, I cannot find the other tags for this one, but there is some tags in there. We'll find eventually. This is another bigger type of tomato.
The running joke this year is whenever we go to do something in the garden, we have weather, just like right now. The summer of weather. Nothing's ever perfect. You roll with it though, right?
I'm out here in the rain giving you guys a tour, so you better subscribe and like this video. How we grow our indeterminate tomatoes in particular is to prune them down to a single vine, and then we'll clip them to these strings and we'll grow them up, and eventually they'll grow over top of our tunnel here. So finishing up our tour of the raised beds are our leeks here. So we've got a number of varieties of leeks here. Since we're not saving seed or anything, it doesn't really matter what variety we have. But we've got lots of leeks for our potato and leek soup.
And a volunteer cilantro.
Speaking of volunteer plants, these sunflowers here were all volunteers out of our compost that I spread over top of our raspberries. So this would be the spot, and we do have some still coming up. We have fall golds, and then we have a red raspberry behind me as well. But these sunflowers are just doing wonderful, and they are way bigger and even blooming way before our sunflowers that we transplanted earlier this year. So we are at the beginning of July, and these sunflowers are towering over me, well over 6 feet tall. So some of the other perennial bushes that we have here are, other than the rose, we have a red currant. Oh no. It has apparently seen better days. And then we have one honeyberry bush. Now with your honeyberries or hascaps, you might know them as, you do need to have a male and a female plant to get a cross-pollination and actually get berries off of them. We had lots of flowers on this one, but we didn't get any berries, and I think our other plant that we had sadly died, or perhaps one of the dogs did something to it. And then beside those we have black currants. So the black and red currants, we'll use them to make jams primarily. You could also make syrups and use them for drinks, but we like to use them to make black or red currant jam. So here in the middle of kind of no man's land, we have a pink lemonade blueberry. Now we haven't gotten any berries off of it just yet, but it is doing really well. We took the time to amend the soil, make sure that it's the proper pH for blueberries to grow. Blueberries will need to have a pH of at least 6.5 for them to grow, and maybe slightly lower for them to thrive and produce really well. So on the north sides of our raised beds here, we have 3 hydrangea plants. The ones on the far ends are limelight, so they are going to be a green type of flower. The one in the middle here is a strawberries and cream, so it'll be kind of an ombre flower from red to white. Since hydrangeas, the color of their flowers can change depending on the soil pH, we've also planted another blueberry here because we have a lower or more acidic soil for this hydrangea. So right here in this row we have a mignonette strawberry. This is an alpine or a wild strawberry. They are very different than what you would find at any grocery store and even many farmers markets. They don't store well and they don't travel very well, but they are very sweet and they grow really well. These ones were started from seed this year. We left the seed packs in the fridge for a couple of weeks to get a cold stratification period, and then we started them off indoors, and once they were a few weeks old, we transplanted them out into the backyard farm, and they are now thriving and producing very well. They are an ever-bearing strawberry, so they will produce for as long as the weather conditions are favorable for them.
And the dogs love them.
Butterscotch absolutely loves these berries. Every time we bring her out, she tries to beeline it for the strawberries and eat them all before we get a chance to. So this is another one of our roses, and it is our strongest smelling rose for sure. We're still getting some blooms off of it, and they are starting to produce some rose hips. But we planted this to help us bring in more pollinators as the scent from it is so strong. So down this alley here, we've put down landscape fabric to kind of try to fix one of our mistakes. We planted mint in our kind of wild section of the garden, our perennial section, but it quickly took over and was crowding everything else out. So we've decided this year we were going to smother out the mint, and instead we're going to be, well, we are growing potatoes in grow bags. We have some tomatoes here as well. These are a Roma tomato. So we'll be growing those to make sauces and to save some for seeds because they are a heirloom variety, so we can save the seeds from those. And then a lot of this in here that we can't exactly get to right now is potatoes, and we have 4 different varieties. Again, we're trialing a few different growing methods, so we have pots and buckets, grow bags, and we're trialing them against the in-ground conditions. We've planted all the potatoes in straight mushroom compost, so they're getting clearly lots of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So we'll see how well the pots and containers do compared to in-ground. So the 4 varieties that we are growing here are a russet, a chieftain, which is a red skin potato, then we have Russian blue, and Yukon gold. So the flowers that you see here kind of help us to identify which potato is growing in which pot or container. The deeper blue, deep purple flowers are going to be those Russian blue potatoes, and those potatoes are going to have a blue skin and a blue flesh. Unlike those red potatoes where the skin is red but the flesh is white, these Russian blue potatoes, the skin and the flesh on the inside are both blue. So the lighter purple flowers here are our chieftain potatoes, and then our white flowers are going to be those russets and the Yukon Gold. So this has been a feature of the backyard farm that has been so far the entire 2024 season in the making, and it is our gnome home. So it's a multifunctional space. Currently it is a wood shop, clearly with the clear plastic roofing and the roofing on the doors. It's going to be a greenhouse for later this season and for next year. But it is 160 square feet. And oh my goodness, is it warm in here. We definitely have to get some sort of air circulation happening. Yeah, so it's 160 square feet of space. We're planning to use this to grow our citrus. We have a lemon, a lime, and an orange plant that we have just picked up. Other things that will grow in here will be peppers, tomatoes, cucumbers, maybe some other varieties of squash, but we'll have it set up so that we can grow for a longer period of time. Our season is fairly short here in Zone 5B. We go from mid-May to roughly the end of September, and then we get a frost and things start to die off. So this will help to extend our season and give us a taste of summer later into fall and maybe even into winter. So thank you for coming along on this little tour of our backyard farm. Please remember that Kawartha Backyard Farms is a food security initiative that we run, and we are helping people in our communities start and maintain their own backyard farms like this. And it doesn't necessarily have to be to this scale, but all we ask is that community members commit to donating 30% of the produce that they harvest to a local charity or other nonprofit that is running a food bank or other food security initiative. We're going to get out of here because it is starting to rain, so we're going to head back inside before we melt. Thank you for joining us, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Bye!